Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com. So today I was going to do a end of the year previews episode. I was looking through the previews catalog and found a lot of stuff that I was interested in and thought I would just talk about with you. And just as I sat down on the computer to record this episode, I checked Twitter as I usually do before I do anything really, just to see what was going on in the comic book world. And lo and behold, I see a tweet from Gail Simone announcing that she will no longer be the writer on Batgirl. And while that's sad, because I really appreciate and respect Gail Simone as a writer, a creator, she's known for her work on the Barbara Gordon character, and with the New 52, with Barbara Gordon coming back to be Batgirl, it made a lot of sense that Gail Simone would be that person to herald that return of the character to the tights. So I've been enjoying that book, and so I'm sad to see that Gail Simone won't be continuing as the writer. However, there's a couple other things that were said during this announcement, and the first one being that the new Batgirl editor Brian Cunningham informed Gail by email, which there's been some responses to that. It's kind of a, and this is my words, not somebody else's, but it's kind of a dick move. I'm a manager in the job that I have, and I would never inform anybody by email that their job was changing or that they were losing their job, for that matter. So that's that. I guess it was not a cool thing in my opinion, but I guess in the corporate world, these things happen sometimes. But then, more interesting to me, and I don't know anything yet because I'm following this. This just happened like within the last half an hour before I pushed the record button. But at about 15 minutes later, Mike Nelson responded back to Gail saying, "Did you not put enough women in refrigerators or something?" And then Gail responded to Mike saying, "Funny you should say that." And that's all that's been said so far about that. I can only take Gail at her word here, and we can make a lot of assumptions, but considering that this whole women in peril thing has come up many times in comics, and especially at DC Comics, it seems. I really hope it's not true, but I can, like I said, I can take Gail at her word. And so I can just assume that there's some truth to this matter, to this thought that's been put out by Mike Nelson, and that just sickens me. If she's being told that, and again, I'm making lots of assumptions here. I don't know anything besides what I've just blurted out. But if there was a push by editorial to put Batgirl more in peril, or to show female characters as needing to be rescued or whatnot, I don't get it. Good storytelling doesn't come from having a damsel in distress each and every issue, and that's just horrible. And I feel bad for Miss Simone, and I wish her well. I know she will, she'll go on to do something else, and it'll be fantastic and wonderful, as is just about everything that she does that I've read. So, well, I guess that's all I'll say on the matter. For now, it was just weird that I go to start to record this episode, and there's this news, and it's disappointing, and I just feel kind of down now. I almost don't even want to do. I was really looking forward to doing this episode about previews because I was excited about all the stuff that was in it, and now I'm feeling kind of down. So now I'm wondering, should I go ahead and continue with this episode, even though I don't, heart's kind of not into it, and and my look at new comics and other things coming out that's comic book related, or am I detracting from this bad news that I feel about in the way that I do? I don't know. These are things that are going through my head. I'm just kind of blurting them out there. I'm sorry. So I think I need to step away for a second, and I'm sure I'll be back, but I need to stop. Okay, I'm back. So in today's show, like I mentioned earlier, I am gonna go ahead and go into the previews for December, the last of the year, for things that are shipping mostly in February. And there's lots of good stuff in here, so I wanted to just put out a last show of the year and have it be a previews episode. And maybe there's some things in here that I mentioned that might be some nice gifts for the people that you love, or just gifts for yourself. Treat yourself for a end of the year situation, I guess. But first, I wanted to have a few announcements. I wanted to get to those. I got a new voicemail number. New, that makes it sound like I had one and now I have another one, but that's not true. I have a voicemail number now, I should say, that people can contact me. And if you're more on the verbal side of communication, then you can contact me using this. It's a voicemail only number, so you're not going to awkwardly get me on the phone and intending to leave a message, and when I say hello and you're like it's just voicemail only, like I said. Anyway, so if you want to give me contact me that way, the number is 208-953-1841. So please leave me feedback there. You can also, of course, leave me feedback in the usual ways via email, which is longboxreview@gmail.com, or on Twitter. I have a Facebook page, or you can leave messages on the blog itself for any posting that I have. I'd love to hear from you. Please contact me. I'd really like to hear the voicemails. That'd be really cool. Of course, I'll put them on the podcast as well. And also, I wanted to mention, I got a lot of feedback just recently. It's really strange. There was a post I did back in April. It was a review of the website mycomicshop.com. So this was back in April that I did this, and I just received within the last few months, but some more recent comments in the last month about this from people who have used the service as well, and there's some interesting experiences. I'll just say that I'm glad that I have not received that kind of customer service, I guess, is what I'll say. If you want to read the comments, you can go to longboxreview.wordpress.com and search for the review of mycomicshop.com from back in April. But I wanted to just mention out that Gary, Rex, and Frank, I appreciate the feedback very much, and I hope that things improve if you do use that site, or if not, there's other sites out there. Go use them. But again, I'm glad I missed out on that kind of service from the website. Anyway, so I just wanted to acknowledge the feedback I got. I really appreciate that. It's nice to hear, even if things are critical of a service that I have reviewed on the site. It's good to hear that kind of stuff just to get the balanced view. Just because I had a couple good experiences doesn't mean that every time the service is excellent. It's good to hear that kind of stuff just so that you can judge whether or not you want to use that service. So I appreciate the comments, guys. All right. Well, Well, let's step into it. Look at previews for December. And first of all, in the book, when I get through, I start paging through it, I see the Free Comic Book Day stuff already starting. Free Comic Book Day being on May 4th in 2013. And I don't know. Maybe like I said, there was a lot of stuff in this previews, and I see the Free Comic Book Day stuff. I'm like, I just start seeing all these things. Maybe it's, the holidays are coming up, and I'm thinking along those lines. Although now that I think about it, now that I've actually said it that way and thinking about it, it sounds rather selfish. But there are lots of things that I want, and I'm sure that you might want them too. Anyway, so I'll just skip right over that. We'll get to the stuff. So the Free Comic Book Day T-shirts that I kind of want one of these now. I don't know why. Just because Free Comic Book Day, I like to promote comic books, of course. That's why I do the podcast. That's why I do the blog. So I thought, it'd be kind of nice to get the Free Comic Book Day T-shirt, and it's the black one with the generic logo. It's only $8 to $9 depending on your size. That'd be a nice little thing. Yeah, they have a hat as well. They have a book bag, or a shopping bag, I should say, a canvas shopping bag for $5. Carry your comics in that. That'd be great, right? Get your groceries, whatever. But the other T-shirt that I wanted to mention too is that, of course, near and dear to my heart because it features the Justice League as drawn by Jim Lee. But this is, let's see, it comes in blue, black, and white, and you can spend $15 up to $18 for that shirt. So I kind of want that one too, just because I like the Justice League, of course. Okay, I'll move on to Dark Horse, and solicited here in the December issue of previews is The Answer #2. And I mention that only because I did order #1. I decided to pick up a few of Dark Horse's miniseries that were announced last month in previews, but I just wanted to mention those. And The Answer is one of those. And I have a note here asking myself, did I order #1? Which I think I did, and I hope I did. If I didn't, I'll be sure to remedy that. But this is by Mike Norton, Dennis Hopeless, and Mike Englert. So I'm looking forward to that. It kind of looks. I have to admit, it kind of looks hokey. It's a guy dressed in tights with a full-headed mask with a big white exclamation mark on his face. So, but it's written by Mike Norton, so it's got to be, at the very least, interesting. So I'm looking forward to reading that, picking that up. Next in Dark Horse's solicitations here, Dark Horse Presents #21. Now, I don't actually get Dark Horse Presents. I did get it for a few months, and I decided that for $8 and for what I was getting, it wasn't quite for me. Plus, the stuff that interested me in Dark Horse Presents, they were collecting and putting out as 0 issues, and then coming out with the miniseries or their ongoings. Ghost, for example, is one thing that they did that with. But I see here in Dark Horse Presents #21 that Neil Gaiman is teaming up with Paul Chadwick for a story, The Day the Saucers Came. So, it being Neil Gaiman, and I do like Paul Chadwick's work, but it's, sorry, Paul, but it's Neil Gaiman. If he's doing a story in here, I might just have to pick up #21 and however many issues they're going to do that story, just because I like Neil Gaiman. So there you go. Name brand does have a bit of a pull, at least with me. Speaking of name brands, there is Michael Avon Emmings' The Victories continues in Dark Horse Presents. So there was the Victories miniseries that he did, which I am getting and reading and actually quite enjoying. So I'm really I'd like to see more of that stuff. Not that I would pick up Dark Horse Presents just to get that, but it is worth noting that the more Victories information, more story is coming in Dark Horse Presents #21. Just as I mentioned The Answer before as something that I had already ordered from last month, I want to mention as well, I'm now picking up Mind Management by Matt Kint. #8 is solicited here in the December previews, but I did start with #7 from last month. I've just been hearing that it's been a good series. For some reason, I just didn't pick up number 1, but I see here that Volume 1 hardcover featuring Mind Management 1 through 6 is being solicited, as well as number 8. I don't know that I'll get the hardcover, but if I can't find the floppies 1 through 6, then I may pick up the trade paperback down the road, depending on how much I like this. Matt Kindt has not always been someone that I've enjoyed everything, but I did pick up his, what was it, 3-story. It was that one shot that I think Dark Horse put out by Matt Kindt. I really enjoyed that. And so when I saw Mind Management, I did think about, I should probably order this, but for some reason, like I said, I didn't. Anyway, I'm now picking up, starting with number 7, which is one of those jumping on points they advertise. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that is like. I also ordered the 0 issue that they solicited a month or 2, or I don't know, however long ago it was. Anyway, looking forward to reading that. I think it's supposed to be catch us up. Oh wait, or did I read that? I think I read that already. I can't keep it all straight now. Let's see here. Let's move on. I think the rest of what I'm talking about in Dark Horse is stuff that I've already pre-ordered from last month. But anyway, I wanted to mention it. Here's another one, The Black Beetle. It's a miniseries, 4 issues by is it Francesco? It's Francesco Francavilla, writer and artist. From what I understand, this is a labor of love for him, and I read the little bit. Like I said, I got a few issues of Dark Horse Presents there for a while, and I read the Black Beetle story in that and enjoyed it, so I decided to pick up the miniseries. And Francavilla's art I enjoy, and that this kind of pulpy stuff works well for him. So again, here's a miniseries that I ordered last month, Emily and the Strangers. This is number 2 of 3, but by Rob Rieger, Mariah Huner, the writers, Emily Ivey is the art, and some covers with Buzz Parker on covers as well, and Winston Smith doing the variant cover. These just look fun. That's all. They look like fun, so decided to get it. That's it from Dark Horse. Next up is DC. Considering the stuff I talked about at the top of the episode, now I'm kind of towards DC. But that's I shouldn't let the acts of a few people affect my love for and excitement about some of these other works. So anyway, more Before Watchmen stuff. We got the Moloch 2-shot, I'll call it. The expansion of the Before Watchmen series, or went beyond the initial series that they've been putting out. And here we get a 1-shot Before Watchmen Dollar Bill, number 1 by Len Wein, and Steve Rude doing the art and cover. So that's interesting. Get Steve Rude doing that. Dollar Bill was like a one-note joke in the Watchmen maxi series from way back when. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with this. I have not been disappointed with the Before Watchmen stuff. In fact, I've been quite surprised at how good the series are and my enjoyment of them. So we'll see. I am starting to wonder, though, how much are they going to continue to mine Watchmen? But obviously it's working for them because they keep expanding it. So anyway, we shall see. This is what I'm looking forward to this. Travis and I on the last episode talked about this, the variant covers anyway, but Justice League number 1 by Jeff Johns, and art and covers by David Finch. So that's finally solicited, and they have a 2-page spread for that, and the second page is showing a couple of the variant covers and talking about how you can get all 52 U.S. flag variants. One for each state, plus Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. And apparently you can order a shrink-wrapped pack of the standard edition of Justice League of America number 1, plus all variant covers, with a suggested retail price of $149.99. There is no minimum purchase needed to order these variants. So I'm hoping the place that I get my comics, a lot of my comics from, is going to allow, because I talked about this on the last show. I want to get the Idaho variant because I'm from Idaho, and yes, you can insert your Idaho jokes here, but I was born and raised here, and for better or for worse, I have an affiliation from my state. So anyway, I want to get that. Speaking of Justice League, there are 2 new series coming out. Katana #1 by Anna Cinti and art by Alex Sanchez. Moving on from Birds of Prey, she's going into her own series and also being part of Justice League of America. I'm not planning on getting that, but because Katana has never been one of my favorites. Although I do have to admit, I do enjoy the New 52 version of Katana in both the way that she's being presented and in her look than I did previously back in, when did Batman and the Outsiders, the original series, come out that introduced Katana? That was 1983, I want to say. And this is one of those times I should look things up, but I'm not going to. Anyway, the other one is Vibe #1, written by Andrew Kreisberg with Jeff Johns. It says and Jeff Johns, I should say. Art by Pete Woods. It's interesting, though. So Katana is just called Katana, but Vibe is called Justice League of America's Vibe. So apparently Katana, maybe because she's been in the New 52 in Birds of Prey, she has more name presence, perhaps, and Vibe has been dead for a long time. So there you go, I guess. I have to say, again, like with Katana, now I haven't read Vibe, of course. Don't know anything about the character other than the little bit that I read back in the 80s when he was part of the Detroit-era Justice League. But I really like his new look. This looks pretty cool. So, and then there was if you watch the DC Nation stuff, there was that, what was it? It was like a two episode mini thing that they did where Vibe, they featuring Vibe, where he did like a breakdancing contest, I want to say. I can't remember. It's been a while now, but that was the first time I'd seen Vibe in a long time. So that was interesting. Let's see, just as a point of contention, I guess, DC Universe Presents #17, featuring Arsenal and Starfire, or guest starring Red Hood and Starfire, but the focus is on Roy. To which I respond with, why is this not part of Red Hood and the Outlaws instead of taking up precious space in DC Universe Presents? Because the whole point of, at least I thought, the whole point of the DCU Presents was to feature characters that were not as established and didn't have their own books, etc. And yet we get this. Moving on, Earth 2 #9. I point that out only as it's a new story arc that begins with Dr. Fate making his Earth 2 debut. So I'm looking forward to that. So we go from a debut to a finale of sorts, Action Comics #17. This is Grant Morrison's final issue, and it's an extra-sized issue of Action Comics. I'm really, really going to miss Grant Morrison doing Superman in Action Comics. I, of course, will give the new creative team a shot, but quite frankly, Grant Morrison was what drew me into Action Comics. So I don't know that I'll continue with it, although I'm still reading Superman. And that has not been on, I'll say, in my top tier of books that I read. So we'll see. But I have to wonder, I like to read Superman stories, but do I need to buy 2? And the quick answer is no. So we'll see. Speaking of Grant Morrison leaving, I can't remember now what he said about his last issues for some of these titles he's been writing, but Batman Incorporated #8 says, everything Grant Morrison has been planning since the start of Batman Inc. leads to this stunning issue. You must not miss this one. So is this the last one that he's doing, or no? I don't know. The text kind of leads me to believe that, so we'll see. That's been a lot of fun too, and I can't imagine if DC continues with Batman Incorporated that I will continue with it. Again, I don't need to read that many Bat books, and I'm already reading a lot. So we're at the end of the year, but we have a bunch of new jumping on points, I'll say, with DC stuff, and Green Lantern number 17 is another one of those, where we have part 1 of the Wrath of the First Lantern. So if you've been enjoying Green Lantern, as I have, I know a lot of people don't for some reason, and when they were talking about the Third Army story arc, a lot of people were like, well, why even bother? People that I read online anyway, why even bother with this? Because Johns was already talking about, well, this is the stepping stone to the next big arc, which is the Wrath of the First Lantern. But that's the point of these monthly ongoing stories, is that you have one arc, you have another. It just builds on itself. And why miss a chapter? Why dismiss a chapter just because something else is coming down the road? I don't understand that. It's just a story. Enjoy the story for what it is. Or if you're like my buddy Travis, you just don't read it. Either way. Beginnings and endings. Here we go with the climax and finale of Rot World and Animal Man and Swamp Thing, number 17. If Animal Man number 17 is the climax to the Rot World story in that book, that means I will stop reading Animal Man. And I know that's heresy to a lot of people, but I read the first 6 issues, I got the annual, and I'm reading the Rot World crossover, and I just don't care about Animal Man, which is weird because I was a huge Animal Man fan way back when, and I'm just not feeling it with this version. So we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe something will change with this climax issue, and we'll see. I'll take a look at the solicitation for Animal Man number 18 and see. Maybe I'll still pick it up on. I try to keep an open mind about these things, because I love comics. I love DC Comics. I love a lot of these characters, so I never say never. Here's another book that I just wanted to mention. I talked about it, I think, last episode with Travis, but Threshold number 2, written by Keith Giffen. This has art by Tom Rainey with a backup story art by Mr. Scott Collins, whom I do not care for, and I've said that. I should stop saying that, but so I'm getting the Threshold. This is a new title that I've added to my pull list just to see what it is. It's got Keith Giffen doing it, so I'm interested. Which leads me to the next Keith Giffen bit, and I did talk about this with Travis last episode, but Legion of Superheroes number 17, Keith Giffen rejoins Paul Levitz on the Legion, and the Fatal Five make their deadly intentions known. It says here, interesting, it says the Legion faces the Fatal Five for the first time. Why does that not ring true to me? I know it's New 52 and New Legion and all that, but as I understood it, and I did read the first 6 or so issues of Legion when the New 52 launched, but that universe, that story didn't really change at all, I think, from before the New 52 launched. So. And these Legionnaires seem to be the older version. It wasn't like that when Paul Levitz came to the Legion, they rebooted the Legion and everything was different again. They started over, like they did way back in the 90s. So really, this is the first time that the Legion is going up against the Fatal Five, or is this really just the Fatal Five? We're seeing the Fatal Five for the first time since the New 52 launched. That's a weird solicitation bit of text to me. Anyway. And next to that, and I wasn't going to mention this before, but for some reason I just got to say this. On the adjoining page to Legion of Superheroes is Teen Titans number 17. I only mention it because this image on here, so it has Red Robin. Boy, see, I messed up there. Red Robin, but in the foreground, but in the background is this bird motif character in dark blue and gray, it looks like, but there's no mention of who that is, so I'm really curious who that character is. So I guess I'll have to read number 17 to find out. This being December previews for things shipping in February, we get the DC Valentine's Day special. It's Young Romance, a New 52 Valentine's Day special, #1. There's stories in here about the Superman Wonder Woman thing, a Batgirl story, Catwoman, Aquaman, Apollo and Midnighter. Really interested what they're going to do with that. Anyway, we have Dick Grayson meeting Lucius Fox's daughter. Plus, you get perforated Valentine's Day cards featuring the stars of these stories. Now, okay. Question for you people out there listening to this. If you got this special, would you actually tear out the Valentine's Day cards? Because I would not. I know it runs contrary to who I am as a comic book reader and collector to actually take things out of the bound issue that I have. I guess is that DC's way of getting you to buy multiple copies if you really wanted to, I don't know, get these Valentine's Day cards and give them to people? I don't know. I wouldn't do it, but anyway. For DC Trades, if you haven't jumped on the bandwagon with Scott Snyder's Batman, you can start with the trade paperback of The Court of Owls, which collects Batman 1 through 7. I highly recommend it. In the DC Trade What the Heck department, Day of Judgment trade paperback for $15 collects the Day of Judgment miniseries 1 through 5 and Day of Judgment Secret Files. Now, what's funny about this is that I just recently was able to buy all those issues. But what I was hoping to get was a trade of it. And yet here it is. So anyway, I got the issues. Doesn't matter. I have it now. But it's just, why are they doing this? Why are they soliciting this? And it's for the first time. It's the first time they've collected this. So, I mean, this is published in 1999. Why now? It's considering the New 52 focus. To me, it's been strange that some of these things that they are soliciting as trades. I'm just trying to figure out what the plan is here. Why do that? Speaking of that, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, the new edition trade paperback, which features the classic Gotham by Gaslight story, which was awesome. If you've not read that, you really should. If you've not read that and you like alternate history Batman stories, you should definitely read this story. It's excellent. But it also includes the Master of the Future, which is kind of a sequel to the Gotham by Gaslight. Gotham by Gaslight. So yeah, Victorian era Batman was just so cool when that first came out. DC Universe by Alan Moore trade paperback. As much as I dislike Alan Moore as a person who says things out loud, his writing is spectacular. I can't dismiss that. And so you get all this stuff from him, which they seem to be doing a lot of Alan Moore trade stuff over the last few years, I've noticed. I guess, well, he go back to what I said earlier about name recognition. He definitely has the name, one of the names in comics. So, and they have every right. DC has every right to publish this stuff again. There's a lot of stuff in here. In fact, I may just get this because there's a lot of these things that I have not read. And like I said, I like his work. The next thing I wanted to point out, and I only pointed out because Peter Rios on the Daily Rios mentioned this on his previews episode. But Martial Law, the deluxe edition hardcover, written by Pat Mills, art and cover by Kevin O'Neill. And just based on Peter's description of this, I want to read this now. So anyway, you should go listen to Peter's episode. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be a week or so old, so you can find it that way. But go check that out, and you can your mind can be swayed by listening to the sultry sounds of Mr. Rios. Next on the list here, just because I love this comic and always have, always will probably, the New Teen Titans. This is the Omnibus Volume 3 hardcover. I have the Volume 1, and I hope to get the Volume 2 very soon, it being near Christmas and all. And, of course, I want to get Volume 3. And this collects, this actually starts the New Teen Titans, the Baxter run, volume 2, I guess if you want to call it that too, with the return of Trigon. That was on the nice, like I said, the Baxter paper is what they called it. That's why we call them the Baxter editions. But Teen Titans 1 through 6 and a bunch of other things. So good stuff that was. And I don't know if I'll be getting this because, well, I probably will, just to complete the runs. And plus, I haven't read all of these issues. But last year or the Christmas before, I can't remember now. My wife surprised me with a bunch of Crisis on Multiple Earths trades. I have 1 through 5. Yes, 1 through 5. And I just recently got through them all in the last month or so. And here we have in previews the Volume 6 trade paperback, which collects JLA 195 through 197, 207 through 209, and 219 to 220. And I believe it was it 195 or 196? I can't remember now. I think it was 196. I actually got that issue off the shelves when it was first published. And I spent years trying to find the first and third parts. And I eventually found the third part. I never was able to get a hold of the first part, if memory serves. I have read it. I mean, Comixology did a sale on Justice League of America stuff, so I was able to buy it and read it for 99 cents an issue. So I got the whole story, but I have all the other volumes. I might as well get this one, and I think I'll be done with the Multiple Earths Crises stories after this. I wanted to mention, again, like I said before, there are lots of jumping on or beginning points and lots of finales this month, it seems, and this is no exception. Young Justice number 25 is the final issue of that series, which that's too bad. I started getting it shortly before the story arc before they moved the comic into the Invasion, the 5 years later bit, because I wanted more Young Justice. I love that show, and I can't wait for it to come back. Stupid scheduling, I don't know what the hell was going on with that, but I can't wait for that to come back. I have the season DVDs that have been released. I'll get the rest of them when they come out because this show is just awesome. In fact, Travis and I were talking about this at lunch last week, I believe it was, and we were talking about how they should make that the Young Justice universe. They should. That's what the DCU should be. Or was it Travis or somebody else? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that stuff is just really cool. I'm really sad to see this go. It's not quite the same as watching the TV show, but it was a nice substitute for it. As Travis and I talked about last episode, here it is, solicited. Hellblazer number 300, the final issue. Yeah, that's too bad. And I say that it's part of I'm probably part of the problem. The fact that it's going away. If sales were really good, I imagine that they would continue on with it. I was not reading this. In fact, I was planning on, as I mentioned last episode, I was planning on jumping on to Hellblazer yet again. Because I've been off and on with Hellblazer over the years, but with number 300, I was going to start reading Hellblazer again at number 300. So here we go. I feel bad that I wasn't supporting it because I knew it was good. It's just one of those things that I just didn't have on my pull list for some reason. So let that be a lesson. It's a lesson for me. I'm looking at the things that I hear are good, and I'll be signing up for those. Here's another trade. We're into the Vertigo section now, of course. Joe the Barbarian trade paperback. This was written by Grant Morrison with Sean Murphy on art. Collecting the 8-issue miniseries. This was recommended to me by a guy at the comic shop that I buy from when it first came out, and I just didn't get into it, that first issue. And then I started hearing things about the series as the months went on, and then realized I missed out. I should have got on board when Matt told me to. So I've been waiting for a trade of this, and here it is. So I will be ordering that. And finally, from DC, well, I've been talking a lot about DC, or talking a long time about DC. Here is the Batman Arkham City Series 4 action figures, and I only mention that because there's a Nightwing in it, and I love Nightwing, and it's Nightwing with the blue instead of the New 52 red version. So they are $23 each. It'd be kind of cool to have the Batman and Nightwing. The Deadshot one that they show, it's interesting. Now, I have Arkham City. I've only played a tiny bit of it because I haven't finished Arkham Asylum. And I know you're thinking, wow, what a dummy, you should get into that. But anyway, the Deadshot, his look is really interesting. It's not the Deadshot that I'm familiar with from Suicide Squad and all that. And I'm not talking about the New 52 version. I'm talking about the other version. But interesting looking. All right, on to IDW. I just want to mention for the fans of this, I know there's a lot of people out there that really like the Ghostbusters stuff. This is the new Ghostbusters #1. It's an ongoing, so if you like Ghostbusters, there you go. And we also have the Rocketeer Hollywood Horror #1. This is written by Roger Langridge, Jay Bone on art, Walt Simonson doing a cover, and that reminds me that I should have mentioned the creative team on the new Ghostbusters, which was Eric Burnham writing, Dan Schoening and Burnham on art, and Schoening doing all 4 covers. So anyway, there you go. So is this back to the Rocketeer? Is this? I don't know if it's a. Can't tell if it's a one-shot or if it's a new ongoing. See that. I wish they would do that. I wish the publishers would be. I've said this before, but I wish they would be more consistent about indicating what things are. You can throw #1 on anything, a one-shot or a mini or an ongoing. So tell me what it is. Tell me if I want to, and maybe that's why they don't. Because if it's an ongoing, maybe I'm not as likely to pick it up. But if it's a miniseries, I might. Or if it's a one-shot, I might. But I don't know. I just wish they'd do it. More licensed product from IDW, Doctor Who, and Star Trek. I just want to mention the Doctor Who Prisoners of Time, the 12-issue maxi series, is solicited. I'm picking that up. That's one of those ones where I pre-ordered it last month, and here's #2, so I just thought I'd mention that. And the same goes for Star Trek Countdown to Darkness, which is a miniseries, #2 of 4. And this is a lead-up to the next summer's Star Trek movie, which, by the way, have you seen well, I guess they're calling it, I don't know if it's a teaser trailer officially, or I did see a reference to it as an announcement trailer. So I watched that online a few days ago, and oh my God, I cannot wait to watch this movie. Cannot wait. And I showed my daughter, who is not a Star Trek fan, but she's a Chris Pine fan. And she's now looking forward to watching that as well. She did like the Star Trek film, though. I've tried my best to turn her into a geek, but she's only just enjoyed watching the things with me. So there you go. So how many of you out there had read the Kill Shakespeare stories that were put out by IDW before? If you did and like them, here is Kill Shakespeare: The Tide of Blood, new miniseries, 1 of 5, by Conor McCreary and Anthony DeCall, with Andy Ballinger doing art and cover. I will not be getting this. I did get the first 2 trades of Kill Shakespeare, and it was okay. Nothing. It was people were billing it as the fables for the Shakespeare crowd, and while there are obvious comparisons to it, the idea was interesting. I have to admit, and being a literature major, and I've read a lot of Shakespeare, and I appreciate Shakespeare's work. I did appreciate the Kill Shakespeare story to a certain degree, but it did not really grab me that much. So I won't be returning to that world, but you might like to. On to Image Comics. This is a mini-series by Jimmy Robinson, 5 Weapons, 1 of 5. I think I'd seen something about this. I can't remember where. But anyway, I just kind of ignored it. But then I was listening to a podcast recently, and man, I want to say it was Fight for Comics podcast, I think, maybe. Or maybe it was a Short Box podcast. I can't remember now. It was one of those, I believe. But they mentioned the 5 weapons. And so I decided when I saw the solicitation here in previews, I'd check it out. And I'm actually, now I kind of want to read it. It says here, 13-year-old Tyler finds himself in a specialized school where assassins send their kids for education and training in one of the 5 deadly weapons. Tyler doesn't have a weapon or any fighting skills, but he still plans to graduate by beating every weapon master in the school because he has a powerful ability that nobody can match, his razor-sharp mind. And the preview art here, the 4 pages they show, look pretty good. I'm really interested in this. So it's only 5 issues. Also, that looks interesting, and this is just you see some preview art here, and that's all you see. Is there's no dialogue, no word balloons or anything, no captions. But Ravine, Volume 1, and oh my God, I was gonna look up how to pronounce this creator's name before I started recording, and I didn't. I'm just gonna spell his last name. I assume it's a him. Sejic. Sejic. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the first name, so I apologize for that. But it's a fantasy thing. The art alone just looks interesting. Looks really good. Son of Merlin #1 by Robert Napton, art by Zid. I've never heard of Zid. Have you? What does Zid do? Anyway, it's I mentioned because it's a science and magic collision type piece, and it's for $1. $1 for 32 pages. So if you like that whole science magic mishmash, there you go for $1. And the art looks pretty good. I like it. Let's see, in the portion of image, the backlist spotlight, they have a bunch of trades here. Danger Club Volume 1 being one of them, $10. Hell Yeah Volume 1, Last Day on Earth trade, $10, which I think I'll order that. Saga Volume 1 trade paperback, $10. And my God, if you haven't been reading Saga and you've been waiting for the trade, get it. It's worth it. Manhattan Projects Volume 1 trade paperback, Science Bad is $15. Interesting. Why is it $15? Anyway, that's been a good series too. I plan to review that more in depth later. Here's a sad note. Creator-owned Heroes #9, solicited here in this month's previews, but yet the news just came out recently that Creator-owned Heroes #8 will be the final issue of that series, which is really too bad. I've enjoyed the comic work in it, and especially the articles, the interviews that they did. It was a really interesting experiment, and I wished more people would have been buying it to keep it around for much longer. All right, on to Marvel, where we get one of the first things in the book is Guardians of the Galaxy 0.1, which is well, at least it's not a 0 issue. It's a 0.1 issue, but we get the Guardians of the Galaxy preview, I guess, before the series starts proper. Brian Michael Bendis is the writer, Steve McNiven doing the art. I'll probably check that out. Nova #1 by Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness. I have no interest in that. I really like the Nova character, and I really liked what they did with the Nova character during the Annihilation saga. But this is a new guy, a new kid. So they're trying to bring in a younger character, maybe capture a younger audience, I guess. Nova was kind of supposed to be like Spider-Man again when he first premiered. To try and capture that youth audience, a new superhero coming into his own, that kind of thing. So I think they're trying to do that again with Nova #1. Anyway, we'll see. If it turns out to be good, like a book I'm going to talk about here in a minute, I'll kick myself and try and read up on it. So I tweeted last week, I think it was, that I had read the all-new X-Men, and if you've listened to the show when Travis and I were talking about the Marvel Now stuff, he made a point of talking about how they were not all-new X-Men, they were the old X-Men, which was fun, a fun conversation. But I did pick up all-new X-Men #1 and 2, And it was an interesting story so far. I'm not convinced that I'll continue with it. I need to get the number 3 issue and we'll see. But what I've heard, and what I want to talk about here specifically, is Uncanny X-Men number 1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Chris Bachalo doing the art. This is, well, it says here, the true flagship book of the X-Men Returns. Okay, so I just have to say, the true flagship book. What about all those other X-Men books? That's kind of a diss to them, I think. I know, flagship. It's kind of a slap in the face to all the other books and creators behind those books. I kind of think. Anyway, so this is the Cyclops that killed Professor X. Whoops! If you've not read or not keeping up on what happened with Avengers vs. X-Men. There you go. That was the big thing. He is teaming up with Emma Frost, Magneto, and Magic, and they're gathering up the New Mutants around the world to indoctrinate them, I guess, considering what Scott Summers' viewpoint is now. But I'm interested in this in the sense of the one thing out of Avengers vs. X-Men that I actually liked, and I know a lot of people don't, but what I liked was, for good or bad, they put Scott Summers in that position where he was, the quote-unquote bad guy. And yes, he did supposedly kill Professor X during this whole thing. But the thing that I found really interesting about that story was the end where they had captured Scott and talking to him, basically, why did you do this? He was not repentant. And I'm glad they didn't do that. And now I see why they didn't, because they were going to continue his story here in Uncanny X-Men. And I'm actually wanting to read this. I want to see this evolution of Scott Summers as the fanatic. Anyway, I want to see that, and I've heard that perhaps the Uncanny X-Men and All New X-Men are kind of like bookends to the same kind of story. Or an examination of the Scott Summers character at the very least. So it would be an interesting way to juxtapose the younger Scott Summers here in modern times, where his future self, or present self I should say, is doing the things he's doing, and just how those two relate. Those two meeting will be an interesting story, I would think. Anyway. Fearless Defenders number 1 is also solicited here, written by Colin Bunn, Will Sliney doing the art. This is the female characters book. I'll try that one out. When I heard that New Avengers was ending, along with a bunch of other titles for the Marvel Now relaunches coming up, I was going to drop New Avengers. I've really enjoyed New Avengers out of all of the books. All of the Avengers books. I've read New Avengers, Mighty Avengers. I've read a little bit of Avengers, but for some reason, New Avengers really captured my attention, and I've been with it since I discovered it. And so I was going to drop it, and then a couple months ago, when they solicited New Avengers number 1, featuring the characters of the Illuminati, with Black Panther joining and the Beast taking Professor X's role. This, and written by Jonathan Hickman. I had to get it, so I just want to mention I'm getting that one. Secret Avengers number 1, written by Nick Spencer with Luke Ross on art. That's coming out. And I think this is the final Avengers, maybe. Note, Avengers number 3. And I only mention this because there's this great 2-page art spread. I think it's a variant. It's a 50th anniversary of the Avengers variant by Daniel Acuna. It looks really cool. It says here, celebrate the Avengers 50th anniversary all year long with 12 stunning variant covers. I hope they mean that there's one variant per month, but probably it's 12 variant covers per issue. Another book I'm getting, I pre-ordered last month, Young Avengers. That Marvel Now .1 got me on board with Young Avengers. That title was totally not on my radar, and then I read the little piece in Marvel Now .1, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it out. Anyway, this is written by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey on art. So, looks pretty good. The preview art, I mean. If you were a fan of the Alpha storyline, that 3-part storyline in Spider-Man, now you get the Alpha miniseries, number 1 of 5 by Joshua Hale Fialkov and Nuno Plati. Yeah, I wanted to check out this whole Spider-Man has a sidekick thing, and so I got those 3 issues of Spider-Man. But and I appreciate the Dan Slott's take on this, kid who suddenly has cosmic powers, basically, and he kind of becomes a jerk. And of course, his powers get taken away, but they're slowly coming back, and apparently that's what they're going to address in this, I would think. It didn't appeal to me whatsoever, so I won't be getting that. Here we go. I mentioned before there's a series that I wanted to highlight, I guess, and that is Hawkeye. So Hawkeye number 8, and it's not really the solicitation for that particular issue, but I just wanted to make note. When Hawkeye was first solicited, I thought, oh, they're just trying to somehow capture the Avengers movie viewing audience in some way. And then I started hearing the buzz about how good this series was. And so, like a week before issue number 5 came out, I went to the comic shop that I go to and determined to find as many issues of that as I could. 'Cause 1 through 4 obviously had come out before then. They had 1 through 3, and I took this home and read them, and I'm like, oh my God, what a good book. What a good book. It, in some ways, the art style and just the storytelling about the character reminds me of the Bendis Daredevil to a certain degree, but it's really good. It's got an interesting color palette. I love how Hawkeye Clint is hearing people talk, in French or German, or I don't remember, and it's a cute little thing, because in the dialogue box it says something in German or something in French or whatever, instead of actually having French and not knowing what it is. It's just Clint, in Clint's mind, it's just I'm hearing someone speak French, and little things like that. It's just really cute. I love the audacious nature of the storytelling and the situations that Clint and the other characters are in. It's just fun. It's a fun comic. I never thought I'd say that about a Hawkeye series. Here we go. The return of the Powers series. I'm not quite sure what happened to that, other than I know Brian Michael Bendis was just busy doing stuff, and Michael Avon Hemming also busy. That volume of Powers that was out before Powers Bureau just kind of disappeared. And then they announced that they were going to do Powers FBI, and then finally, and it was supposed to come out, God, I think back in September, I think, maybe? Anyway, apparently they decided to wait to release it, and now it's finally being solicited as Powers Bureau, and you get number 1 and 2 solicited in this month's previews. We'll see how that goes. I'm not a big fan of some of Mark Millar's work, but for some reason his superior with Leinil Yu, just, I don't know, something about that made me want to read it. And so here's the trade, and so I'll probably pick that up at some point. There's so many things that I'm picking up. I don't know that I'm going to be able to afford everything that I want to get this month. So fortunately, trades, I can get those down the road, hopefully. So let's move on to the other publishers in previews. I remember hearing about Aspen's 10 for 10, 10 new titles coming up in the new year, and here's the first one, and it's only $1, and this is Legend of the Shadow Clan. by David Wall and art by Corey Smith, colors by John Starr. It's their 10-year anniversary, kicks off with this. From Avatar Press, there are 2 books here that I just want to mention, mostly because I read one of these and I want to read the other. The first is Freak Angels, the Complete Collection Slipcase Edition for $99.99. This is the Warren Ellis series that was free on the web. And I read that on the web each and every week and really enjoyed that series. It was a nice story. I'm really curious how if you haven't read Freak Angels, I still believe you can. Is it still available on the web? I'm going to check that out right now. Hold on. Yes, it is. It's still online, but you can get the trades if you prefer that. And then next, I wanted to mention Alan Moore's Writing for Comics. It says graphic novel for $5.99. $5.99. I might pick that up. I know I was a little lippy about Alan Moore earlier, but as I said, the guy knows how to write. So I'm really curious to see what he has to say about writing for comics. I have a few books along those lines already. I still have that dream that one day I would write for comics, although I'm not so sure that I'd want to do that considering the behind-the-scenes stuff that we are now more privy to than I was when I was a wee lad first getting into comics, where you basically didn't know anything. Now you know, I think, too much sometimes, but some of that's good to know, obviously, but it kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth, I'll say. Anyway, I may pick that up for $5.99 if I can get it cheap online. Here's a trade that I will want to read because I missed out on this series when it first launched. Sometimes I look at my order and I think, oh, that's way too much money, so I start pulling things off, even though I know I want to read that story, read that issue, read that title. And this is one of those that I did pull off, and that's Danny Abnett and Andy Lanning's The Hypernaturals, the first volume, out in trade for $16.99. Let's see. Collects the free Comic Book Day edition, which I did read, and issues 1 to 3. Really? That's it? Those are 3 issues and the free Comic Book Day issue. For $17? 128 pages. So, wow, those issues must have been, what, 32 pages each? Ish? Maybe, I don't know, maybe they had a double-sized issue or something. I don't know, but that seems really light. 3 issues and a free Comic Book Day, which is not that much. I could be wrong. Here's another mini-series. This is from Dynamite Entertainment. I just got off of I dropped The Shadow, the new series, after 6 issues. I enjoyed it well enough. Just, it was okay. Wasn't really exciting, but it wasn't bad either. It was well written. I like the art. That character just has never really been that interesting to me. But here we have The Shadow Year 1. It's an 8-issue miniseries written by Matt Wagner, which right there, that gets my attention. Wilfredo Torres is doing the art, and a bunch of people doing covers. $3.99. I'm tempted just because I kind of like those origin stories, and Matt Wagner's doing it. So Oni Press is finally releasing the 6th Gun, Sons of the Gun. I believe that was supposed to be a mini-series. All it says is number 1. So anyway, but it's an untold tale of the 6. Since the very first issue of the 6th Gun, readers have clamored for more information about General Hume's horsemen, and now the story can be told. So that's, of course, written by Cullen Bunn and Brian Hurt with artist Brian Chirilla, colorist Bill Crabtree. Yep, I'm getting that. That's 6th Gun's always an entertaining read. Alan Moore has raised his Hydra head yet again, but this time in the Nemo Heart of Ice hardcover, continuing a new League of Extraordinary Gentlemen story. Full color 48-page adventure in the classic pulp tradition. It's 1925. since Jenny Dakar first tried to escape the legacy of her dying science pirate father, only to accept her destiny as the new Nemo, captain of the legendary Nautilus. So you get that story. That's $15. That's actually not a bad price. But I read these League of Extraordinary Gentlemen stuff in trade, so I'll wait for that. To Valiant, continuing their wonderful relaunch. I plan to do an examination of the books of theirs which is all of them right now, that I'm reading. But here we go. We get Harbinger number 0, and yeah, I could go off on my rant about Zero issues, but this is a prequel, I guess, examining Toyo Harada, the CEO of Harada Global Conglomerates. So you have that, and then you get the beginning of the first epic, as they say, Exo Man of War event with issue number 10 coming out. That right now, Exo Man of War is probably my favorite of the Valiant series. So I'm looking forward to that. And that does it for the comics, but since it being December, Christmas time, holiday season, gift giving and all that, there's a bunch of other things I wanted to point out. Some books and toys and other things. And the first thing that just caught my eye here is the Doctor Who Character Compendium hardcover. You get in detailed character profiles of all 11 regenerations of the Doctor, as well as profiles of his many companions and adventures. For $16.99, 96 pages. I love those kind of books. And if I had more money and I wasn't spending so much on comics, I'd be buying some of those. And I believe there's a bunch of Star Trek stuff I'll mention, and the first two are the Star Trek The Visual Dictionary hardcover, and that's for $20 for 96 pages. Hold on, let me go back here to that Doctor Who thing. Yes, also 96 pages. Oh, it's slightly bigger. The Star Trek one is 9 by 12. The Doctor Who one is 7 by 10. I guess that's not too bad. A bit price difference. But you get it charts each and every one of the voyages of the Starship Enterprise, covering all 6 television series with full coverage of the favorite characters, such as, well, you know who your favorite characters are. And, now this is what gets me. Full color pictures of ships. That says here that would make James T. Kirk proud. And the Star Trek ships, yes, great stories, great characters, blah, blah, blah. I love the ships. I love the Federation ships, especially. The Enterprise, I love that. I just love the look of that ship. Anyway. Next is Stuck on Star Trek hardcover. This is interesting. 8 by 10, 10 pages for $20, $19.95. But it says here, an interactive and imaginative way to experience the Star Trek universe using the magic of, quote, cling on pieces. Get it? Klingon? Trekkies and fans of all ages can set their phasers to fun. I really hate it when they do that. Set their phasers to fun. Okay. As they reenact their favorite scenes from the original Star Trek universe, or create new uncharted scenarios. Stuck on Star Trek features 10 original and instantly recognizable scenes, as well as alien environments, which set the stage for more than 30 reusable, quote, Klingon stickers featuring everyone's favorite Starfleet crew. I kind of want to get that. I had something like that, but it was Battlestar Galactica, I think, from the late 1970s, where it was not Klingon. I'm sure it wasn't this Klingon stuff that they're talking about, but it was a magnetic set, and you could put the like Adama and Apollo and Starbuck and Cylons, and you just kind of make up your own. Put the pieces on the metal backing, and then I guess make your own stories. Anyway, I had that. I thought it was cool, so it reminded me of that. Here's the first shirt I wanted to mention. Who doesn't like their T-shirts? This is the Doctor Who Angel of Liberty black T-shirt. It's a Previews exclusive wear. If you're a fan of Doctor Who and you watch the mid-season finale, then you know what this Angel of Liberty is all about. It's kind of neat looking. It'd be a different kind of shirt to wear, as well as, I guess, now that I'm looking at it, I wasn't going to mention it earlier, but the Joker Death T-shirt from Graffiti Designs, and you see the Joker's, smile, his laugh, and it's sort of a outline in red with a sort of a bat outline, so that's kind of cool. And not that I want this t-shirt, but the image of it makes me want to ask, and I am asking you if any listeners out there know. So here is the Mad Engine t-shirts, Marvel t-shirt. There's a Shade of Venom t-shirt, and it features Venom in the background in black, with Spider-Man and Spider-Woman back to back, looking like they're fighting, getting ready to fight Venom. So my question is this from a story? Is this from an arc or something in Spider-Man somewhere, from years past or even more recently? Because I don't read Spider-Man all the time. Just every once in a while, I'll pick up a like that Alpha arc. I pick that up. So if there was an arc, a story, even a one-issue story where Spider-Man and Spider-Woman fought Venom, I'd like to know what that is, because I'd like to go find that. Also, from Graffiti Designs I thought this was cute. The Rat Pack, Rat Creature T-shirt. It says Rat Pack on the ad here, but the Rat Creature T-shirt from Bone. So you get the rat creatures with the big red eyes and the fangs. You get that. I thought that was kind of cool that Bone has a T-shirt. Also, let's see. Is this from Graffiti or somebody else? I don't know. They're not very good about. Just says apparel. Anyway, there's a couple shirts here. There's a Star Trek shirt that has the Enterprise on it. I thought that was neat looking. This is on page 376 of previews. And on the next page, the funny, the whole red shirt joke, Star Trek. Again, here's a T-shirt with a red shirt crewman, and the text says "Dead Man Walking." Yeah, that's funny. Funny if you like Star Trek. And as far as collectibles go, we have yet another nice-looking art effects statue. This time, the New 52 Batman. Looks really cool. I had posted on the blog a picture of the Superman artifact statue that just looks gorgeous. And every one of these that have come out so far, I haven't yet ordered one, but man, I'm so tempted. But $45, that's a little pricey for me for something like that. But they look good. And speaking of Batman and his Justice League friends, well, some of them anyway, if you have a iPhone, the what do they call it? Kara covers. You can get iPhone covers anyway. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, which is an exclusive, I guess, a comic market exclusive. Although I don't know why would they do that. Why would you not want to sell more of those? Anyway, the Joker, Harley Quinn, and Batgirl. These are $35. They're just cute. But Marvel's not represented, so you have 6 of those for Marvel. You have Spider-Man, Iron Man, Venom, which is the exclusive, Thor, Captain America, and Wolverine in his blue and yellow suit. So, yes, very cute. I mentioned Battlestar Galactica earlier. Here is you know how they're doing USB sticks in these weird, not weird, but actual, they don't look like USB sticks. Their models are, they actually look like something, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So you get a Battlestar Galactica Viper 8GB USB stick. I'm trying to see from the picture where you would plug it in, but it looks just like a Viper, which looks pretty cool. And here we are getting to the end of previews. I mentioned earlier how I have bought the Young Justice DVDs that have been released so far. Well, here you get the solicitation for Young Justice Invasion, Destiny Calling, which is the Season 2, Part 1 DVD. That's for $20. And I'll get that eventually. I wanted to wait on the Young Justice DVDs like I did with the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, where they finally released them all as quote unquote seasons. So I have the 3 seasons of those shows. But for some reason I decided to, because it's weird the way they it's not weird. I know why they do it. They're trying to get as much money as they can, but they release like these sets. So you get like, I don't know, three, 4, 5, maybe 6 episodes per set, and then they release that, and they release the next set, and then they come out with a like what I bought finally was a three pack. Says 3-pack fun on the DVD, but it's basically the first season of Young Justice. And then I got the first Young Justice Invasion part as well. So here's the season 2 part 1. So maybe they'll come out with the full season 2 of Young Justice, which I hope to God is not the last. And I believe, it is the last thing that I wanted to point out in previews. It's a documentary DVD being released on Blu-ray, it looks like, and it is Comic Book Confidential, the 20th anniversary edition. It's a feature-length documentary that profiles 22 of the most significant artists and writers working in comic books, graphic novels, and strip art in North America today. Interesting. It's the 20th anniversary edition. So is it actually updated? I don't think so. The folks on the cover art here, you got Will Eisner, Robert Crumb, Stan Lee, Will Gaines, Frank Miller, Harvey Kurtzman, Jack Kirby. Can't make out some of these other names. Art Spiegelman, Jaime Hernandez. So a bunch of those people. So I have this, or had a version of this on VHS and enjoyed it quite a bit. So here's the 20th anniversary edition, but you can get it on Blu-ray for $25. And that is it. That's my look at the previews catalog for December 2012 for things shipping starting in February. Hopefully, we'll be able to actually get those things that we order this month if the Mayan calendar turns out to be wrong. And there's some great ideas here as gifts for people that that like comics and other pop culture things. So there you go. Please remember to contact me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can also contact me through the new voicemail number, which I gave at the beginning, but is now, I'll give it to you again, which is 208-953-1841. You can also contact me through Twitter, leave messages on Facebook, and as well as the blog at longboxreview.wordpress.com. This will be the last episode for 2012. So you won't hear from me until sometime in January, at least through the podcast. I'll still be posting things on the blog, though, so you can check that out. And I'll be checking Twitter and tweeting stuff and reading and enjoying comics. And I will leave you with that. Go do that yourself. Thanks for listening.